Hi everyone, my name's Richard and I represent especially vapers over the age of 60, those who are doing it or those who might want to do it. And the problem with a lot of us over 60s is that we're a little bit worried about technology, we try to avoid it, and vaping has become a highly technical subject these days. A few years ago, electronic cigarettes looked just like a cigarette. You picked it up, you drew on it and did what you do with a cigarette, and that was it. But today, you get things like that. And that produces a much better vaping experience. But what are they all about? Well, this is my first video and that was an introduction, and I'm actually going to not talk about vaping in general. I'm going to talk about the Triton Mini. That's the tank. It's a tank I would recommend anybody starting out to use. I would also recommend this one, which is the Nautilus. And as you can see, as I disappear into the fog, that produces a really pleasant amount of vapor as well. So these tanks are made by a company called Aspire, and there are a number of good makes on the market, and that's important for first-time vapors. Don't try and buy cheap stuff, and especially cheap juice. Go for stuff that has a good name, well established, and Aspire is one of those. I'm not saying it's the only one, there are others, but here in this video I'm dealing with a relatively new tank on the market, this very smart looking Triton Mini. It's smart because it's gold, and I got the gold one because I'm a poser. That's the reason. I got it because I like to pose with it. Now, the thing is with these tanks, and this comment is really more towards people who are already using tanks like the Nautilus, the Aspire Nautilus or the Aspire Triton Mini. Don't get this confused with the Triton, which is a totally different tank altogether. This is a Triton Mini. It only holds, and I say only holds, 2 milliliters of e-liquid, whereas the original Nautilus holds 5 mils, and there is a Nautilus Mini which holds 2.5–3 mils as well. The thing is that as technology develops, it usually leaves people behind. Aspire seem to have been very considerate, because with the Triton Mini they introduced 3 new coils. But the good news is, because the Nautilus tanks are still very popular, and for very good reasons, because they're excellent tanks with excellent coils, the 3 coils that work with this one also work with this one, and the 2 existing coils that work with this one also work with this one. So you've got a Nautilus Mini and a Triton Mini tank, and you've got 5 coils to choose from, and they all work in each other, which is fantastic. The good news is that the 3 new coils for the Triton Mini are even better than the 2 coils that have been supplied with the Nautilus. Now, with the new Triton Mini, and this is where it gets a little technical, so for the newbies out there, my apologies, but the first coil is a 0.15 ohm temperature controlled coil. You can only use it in the tank if you've got a suitable battery, suitable type of battery, or mod as they're called, to run it. If you're not sure about that, avoid it. Anyway, the next coil up is a normal 1.2 ohm coil, so quite low ohms, but that means you can run it at higher wattages, and that's not an Indian score, by the way. You can run it at higher wattages, which means you get a little bit more out of it. The next one up with the Triton Mini is what I call a 1.8 Clapton coil, and the Clapton coil is double wound, and that's the one that's in here, and it produces plenty of vapor if that's what you want. But more importantly, I think, for smokers, ex-smokers, it produces fantastic flavour. And I love the Clapton coil, and at 1.8 ohms, even though that's only a 2 milliliter tank, the juice really doesn't go down that quickly because it's quite a high resistance coil. It's running on lower temperatures, and therefore the juice lasts longer. So there you go. Triton Mini cost you, I've seen offers on them at £15, and the gold one is normally about 26. A Nautilus, they're probably about £20, I would say. Once you got it, you got it. The coils average about £11–12 for 5 coils. Whichever version you get, they're all about the same price. And I find, being an ex-pipe smoker, I puff a lot, so I really work on these coils very hard. And I'm still getting usually up to 2 weeks out of each one. So it's costing me £1 a week in coils. It's not, once you've got the hardware, the mod, and that is a temperature controlled mod, as well as the normal one. Once you've got that, you've got no further expense. You've got to buy a battery for it, but that's fine, because they last for months and months and months. They only cost a few pounds. And then you've got the juice. Well, I can't tell you how much the juice costs because I don't know how much you're going to be using it. So it's entirely up to you. Now, juice, that's a tricky one. And, you know, as an ex-pipe smoker, and I've been vaping now for over 4 years, I've constantly looked for juices which will give me a pipe smoker's type experience. And I have found some eventually. And probably that's the subject of another video in the future. Anyway, there you go. That little mod there, very flexible mod indeed. Also made by Aspire. I quite like their stuff, and this is the Aspire Pegasus. There is a Pegasus Mini that goes with this, but again, being a pipe smoker that puffs a lot, I like to have larger mods with more power, which lasts longer. So otherwise, I'm going to be charging the battery more than once a day. For a cigarette smoker, this type of what I've got in my hand here, you could probably fill it up and puff away all day, unless you're like a former 80 a day person, and you'll be fine. As I say, I can't recommend juices. The only thing I do recommend is that you buy good juice. The usual price for juice is about £4 for 10 mils. But there are so many shops out in the marketplace now. Where I live, there are a number. And these shops are the best places to go in the first place because they're good retailers. They've got a lot of experience, and most importantly of all, you'll be able to try the juices. You tell them what you're after, and they'll let you try a few before you actually make the decision to buy. So that's good news as well. So this video kind of captures, or should capture, the interest of people who haven't used vaping before, who have tried it and had a poor experience, and that's usually because they've had poor quality hardware, poor quality tanks and poor quality juices. And it will also be of interest to experienced vapers who may not be aware that there are 5 coils available for 3 different Aspire tanks, which is great news. And I think Aspire should be applauded for making their products backwardly compatible like that. So there you are. If you have any questions, by all means post them to me on the bottom of the video, and I'll be happy to answer them. Hopefully I'll produce some more videos in the future, perhaps about batteries. That's a complex, dangerous and uninformed area. I'd love to see retailers being a little bit more helpful on that front. A lot of them aren't, regrettably, whether online retailers or otherwise. But again, generally I find the shops are better because they're run by people who really know vaping and therefore understand things about batteries and so on. So in the meantime, happy vaping, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers.